Hello and welcome to Hank Games Without Hank. My name is John Green, manager of the AFC Wimbledon Wimbly Womblys. Today taking on Fleetwood Town, a city that I'm guessing is near the coast based on the fact that it has an anchor in its shield. So today, okay, this is very important. Look at the table, guys. We're in first, which is great. Look who's in second. It's the worst. The news couldn't be worse from a perspective of who's in second. No further comment. To call them our enemies dignifies them in a way that I don't want to. Today's topic for today's video comes from Rachel Smith, who donated to the project for awesome. Thank you, Rachel. She wanted me to talk about mental illness and the creative process, which is one of my favorite topics. So thanks, Rachel, because I used to always say that I was crazy, and my psychiatrist really doesn't like it when I say that, and I know he's a big fan of the Wimbly Womblys, so what's up, Dr. Patel? I'm not going to call myself crazy today. But I am crazy. I mean, I do have a mental illness. And like, I don't know. Yeah. And I don't know. Nobody likes it when I call myself crazy, so I'm not going to call myself crazy. But I do sometimes think of myself that way. There's Ossiosi Manager. And I work in a creative field, I guess. Like I write a Vlogbrothers video every Tuesday, and then every 5 to 10 years I write a novel. So, I mean, I guess I have some perspective on this. I think when I was a kid, I've talked about this before, I apologize if you've heard me say it before, but when I was a kid, I kind of thought that to be a good writer, or at least to be a great writer, which is what I wanted to be, you had to be crazy. This is an old idea in the world of creativity, that madness and creativity are linked. That I think Lord Byron said that every creative person has a touch of madness, whether it's mania or depression, which were kind of the two big ones at the time. We think about mental illness somewhat differently now. Oh my gosh, it's a fantastic ball, but it all came to nothing. And like growing up, I sort of romanticized mental illness, I think. Maybe partly, I mean, it might have been partly because I knew there was something wrong with me, or I knew that there was something abnormal about me. Because I had these, I have OCD, so I had these obsessive, like, just periods. And then also, it's the Messi from Montserrat, I believe, Lyle Taylor with a fantastic, a historic finish against Fleetwood Town, humiliating our opponents going in off the post. It could not have been a better finish. It was half saved by the keeper, but only half. And Lyle Taylor has got himself on the score sheet. Excitement. Look at Ossiosi Manager. He couldn't look at him. Just cool as the other side of the pillow. Oh, Lyle, that was a fantastic goal. Making up for the lack of ball John Green for the next 3 months. I mean, that guy has some brittle bones. Anyway, I mean, when you're inside of your own head, you don't know what it's like to be inside of any other head, and that's particularly true, I think, when you're a kid. But I don't know if that was part of why I thought that mental illness was, indispensable to creativity, or if there were other things going on as well. I suspect that I was also getting messages from the broader culture, our culture is it stigmatizes mental illness a lot, especially mental illnesses that are wrongly associated with violence. But it also romanticizes mental illness in a lot of ways, I fear, by making it seem that it's a way of being, touched by the Lord or whatever, or in the, like how Carrie Matheson has to go off her meds to discover who the real terrorist is in Homeland, which is a show I love, by the way, but I think that's problematic. And so I guess I understand that there is an association between creative output and mental illness. I think that association is complicated and poorly understood, and I don't like it when people make big assumptions about it, because I also would say that the best novels I've ever read, or many of the best novels I've ever read, were written by some of the sanest people I know. Many of my favorite books are not products of mental illness, and in my own case, none of my books are direct products of mental illness, because when I'm really sick, I don't get any writing done, because I'm too busy thinking, and so I want to be really cautious whenever I talk about this in not associating mental illness with genius or anything. I do think that, and I also don't want to make it sound like there are all these like big benefits to it that make, that mean that you shouldn't aggressively treat your health problem. I worry about that a little bit too. Like, people think, and I mean, I've thought this before. I've gone through periods in my life where I thought I can't write, and the reason I can't write is because I'm on this medication, and if I just get off this medication, I'll start writing again. And then I get off the medication, and what actually happens is like just disastrous and dangerous, and not at all creatively productive, and like pretty, ultimately kind of sad. It's a hard thing to manage. It's a lifelong process, and a very difficult one, I think, for most people. It is for me. I mean, I don't feel like I'm there's no, like, I don't really foresee a cure. I mean, I might be wrong. I mean, it'd be great to be wrong. I would be delighted to be to feel like I was on the other side of this or something, but it's even more complex than curing other chronic diseases like diabetes or metabolic disorders. I just think the brain chemistry is really, really complex, and the instruments that we have to kind of deal with it now are exceptionally blunt. And so I don't really have an expectation of getting all the way better. But I do think that it's, oh my God, what a finish. I'm sorry, I have to pause in my talking because it's time for dancing. Oh, other John Green with a fantastic, I believe that was technically outside the box. Can I see a replay, please? And, oh yes, it was outside the box. That was an outside the box goal. A score from, I would say, 18 1/3 yards. And just, oh my God, it's a beaut. He's a finisher. Oh, and then, I don't know what that dance is, but it's magnificent. His beautiful ginger body. John Green, Nay Bennett, the only working John Green we have at the moment, and therefore our most important one. So, by the way, we're just dominating this game. There's no other way, nothing else you can say about it except that it's pure. I don't want to say that Fleetwood have been humiliated, but they only had one chance, I think, and we did a great job of shutting it down. So I'm feeling good about where we are. Some people would say it's a result of the skill level, real-life skill level being somewhat harder, as AFC Wimbledon are finding out in real-life League One. But I don't think it's just the skill level. I think it's also partly my skill. So I also think that the link between creativity and mental illness, like, correlation is not causation. We don't really know which is the chicken and which is the egg in this story. So I think when I look at my own creative life, there is no doubt in my mind that part of the reason I write stories is because I am trying to invent and then, oh God, off the post, invent and then solve a puzzle, which is something that I do a lot in various parts of my life. Like I spend a lot of time, in kind of like thought spirals about what are all the things that could happen and which among them is the worst, thoughts like that. Now, that's like not totally dissimilar from the process of writing a novel, right? Like when you're writing a story, you're trying to sort through what should happen to the characters and why, and what the characters are like and what really motivates them, and all the things that might happen to them, and which of the things that might happen to them is the most interesting. And, and my my brain like circles through that stuff very quickly and always has. And so I think there is a like a correlation there. And I guess I don't want to deny that because I don't think it'd be honest to deny it. But at the same time, I don't want to, like, I don't want to. Oh, this is it. Oh, it's a fantastic ball. Oh God, the finish was wanting. I believe that was on his weaker foot. He doesn't have a very strong weak foot. Let me see. Could you have? I wonder if you could have laid it off. It's just. I wonder if there was a layoff there to maybe Beer or Parrot that could have been beneficial. Wait, that was a good idea. Fleetwood Town just had a good idea, which was to make substitutions. Something I always forget to do. Beer, you're out. Camps, you're in. I like a good ginger. Parrot, you're out. When I take out one part of the pirate team, I take out both parts of the pirate team. It's my policy. All right, there we go. We have an entirely rejuvenated midfield, except for Bartram, who has no give up in him, so I'm not at all worried. Making 3 substitutions at once, just like the pros do. Manchester United, by the way, this weekend, Meredith made 3 substitutions all at once, and it was a thing of beauty. And then they proceeded to not beat Bournemouth, which was even more enjoyable. Right. The other... so I don't want to deny that there is probably some relationship between my... like the way that my brain is wired to think and the way that I write stories. But I also think there are lots of other ways to write stories. Like, I don't think that the way that I write them is the only or even the best way, right? And so you work with the brain chemistry that you're given. And I don't know if part of the reason I'm attracted to writing fiction is because of my mental illness or if it's about other things from my childhood or if it's about other things from my adulthood. I think that it's super complicated, and like trying to like tell a simple story about it is just not accurate, right? Like, one of the things that really bothers me about this, what I see as the kind of romanticization of mental illness and the linking of mental illness and genius, is that it way oversimplifies creative processes, creative outputs, and it also way oversimplifies the idea of genius. Like, I think it's such a deeply flawed idea. I mean, there are obviously a few people who are, in human history who have been really exceptional artists. Like, obviously the person we think about in English is Shakespeare. Shakespeare was a genius, but Shakespeare was also very much a product of Shakespeare's time. There is no way that Shakespeare would have been... Oh, you've got to run to that. There's no way that Shakespeare would have been Shakespeare if he hadn't lived in Elizabethan England, in a time when language was being codified and when English was in many ways like up for grabs, right? I mean, it's no coincidence that in Shakespeare's generation there were a bunch of other really, really good playwrights. Now, none of them were as good as Shakespeare, and I don't deny that he was a true individual genius. But at the same time, that both things are happening. Individuals are important, and they're working inside of social orders that, that help or don't help. That was a terrible pass. Them to make interesting and good work. I don't think. So I worry sometimes that. Oh God, I just gave up a stupid goal. That it's part of our worship of individualization and the individual that makes us think that it's okay to, go off our meds to try to be Carrie Matheson because nobody else can be Carrie Matheson and she's the only one who can crack the case. I just worry that that's for me at least. I don't want to generalize, but for me that's a dangerous way of looking at the world. So. I don't know if I answered your question, but I tried. Remember to go to yourgolftravel.com for all your golf travel needs, and thank you for watching. Best wishes.